Now that I've picked up everything I'm picking up from 2025 from the Criterion collection, I wanted to take the time to celebrate my 5 favorites from what has been an extraordinary year from the collection. This Criterion collection label has just been astounding this year, and I wanted to talk about at number 5, a film from the Western genre, a genre that I hope we see more films from in the future. This is something I was very excited for, and just a long time, been waiting 5 years or more, for Anthony Mann's Winchester 73, starring James Stewart. And I really love this film, as I often do Anthony Mann Westerns. Noirish shadows spread across the frontier in this landmark Western, the first of the collaborations between Stewart and Anthony Mann. And this is where James Stewart really got to branch out and be a little bit more brooding, a little bit more cynical. The Far Country is another one from the Arrow collection you might really like. But they're playing this sort of the cursed Lucky Rabbit's Foot game with a rifle that everyone keeps trying to possess, that he wins early on in a shootout battle. Not a shootout, not like people shooting at each other, but a shooting contest. And it kind of passes around different hands in a film that's really kind of an emotionally touching film at times. Just really well staged, really well acted. It has Shelley Winters and Dan Duria in it, and there's an interesting role for Rock Hudson I'll leave for you there. But it's like a lot of the Anthony Mann Westerns. It's very psychologically driven. It has a compelling story. It is not linear in its storytelling. I think there's this tendency that people have to think that every Western is going to have the exact same plot. This one does not. And I love the first third of this film is among my favorite first thirds of Western history. Just the Wyatt Earp piece to this, the shootout, the pacing, the way that the characters are taking aim. It's really entertaining stuff. It's a really good Western. So those of you that like James Stewart, you'll have to let me know which of his Westerns you like. I've covered a few on the channel over the last year or two. So that's my number 5. My number 4 is a good bit different. That I was hoping that I would like this film as much as I did, because Abbas Kiarostami, it took me a while to really understand his films and what he was trying to do. And I think that my number 4, The Wind Will Carry Us, really helped me find a new appreciation for that director. I just hadn't personally clicked with his films before this one. And now I have, and I'm going through the Eclipse series right now, which has been really nice. The mysteries of everyday life come into astonishing focus in this one, it says. There's this documentarian, and he's kind of undercover, and he's supposed to be covering the funeral rites of this small village, this older woman that he's almost just like waiting to die. And along the way, there's so much interesting culture that he seems to just like overlook. He's always in a rush to get to the spot where his now very outdated cell phone will find reception. It's a really interesting part of that film. This is such a breathtakingly beautiful film, a quietly beautiful film. Cinematic. This is one of the most cinematic of this list of 5. And it also says, suffused with the director's love for people, poetry, and the arid beauty of rural Iran. It's a meditative masterpiece. And it reflects upon the boundaries between intimacy and alienation, tradition and modernity with the utmost grace. And that is part of, do these people really need to come into the next century? Is their older, more communal way of life better? And it left an impression on me the way film sometimes can, where you think about it every few days. Certain images from the film resonate with you. The resilience of people. I need to watch it again, because I don't think I took in as much as I could have in the first watch. And the mark of a great director is that you want to return to a film and re-explore it, I think, that a film has that kind of depth. So I will be watching this again. A film that I have talked about. This is going to be my number 3. And I have said that this is my favorite film noir of all time. As of right now, it is. I think this is one of the darker ones out there. I think this is one of the more honest ones out there. And this is called, from Fritz Lang, The Big Heat, with Glenn Ford and Gloria Graham. And Glenn Ford plays this real uppity detective who goes way, way, way too far down a rabbit hole of trying to find corruption that might have to do with, organized crime, the police, whatever it is. And a lot of folks end up paying the consequence for that, both for what they do and what he does, his lack of caution. Roger Ebert has a stellar review of this that I recommend you read after you watch the film, okay, if you haven't ever seen it. And I love Fritz Lang, I'll talk on here all the time about how, Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt, how I just loved him as an actor in that. And his pictures, fantastic movie. And here we are with a film perfectly suited for a director like that, someone who understood humanity and its darkest impulses that well. Love Fritz Lang. And this has just the best use of a phone booth, other than maybe Tippi Hedren getting pummeled to death by birds in that movie, in The Birds. And is that her name? I may not have had the name of the actress correctly. Someone can correct me if I didn't. Anyway, great use of a phone booth. Corruption, as long as how's that saying go? How long as the day is? Anyway, I'm thinking about the movie and I'm like losing my train of thought because I'm like so obsessed with the movie that I'm just imagining Lee Marvin with like the coffee mug, or the big pot of coffee. Like that scene constantly, every time I think about this movie, that scene comes into my head and then it like just distracts me because it's such a well done scene. And Lee Marvin's so scary in this, even in his small role. And this is film noir at its peak. I need to go back through and look at this booklet again. That reminds me. Look at this booklet. Isn't this awesome? Look at this thing. All that to read. I'm going to look at that again. And I love the Gloria Graham character. The next two. For a while, I thought this was going to be my release of the year. And were it not for a real special number one, this probably would have been. I am absolutely in love with The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and I've been saving my rewatch for Christmas because I really want my wife to see it. I want us to talk about it. And it has that scene, at the end that if you've seen the film, you might understand why I wanted to save it for that. The angelically beautiful actress, Genevieve, Catherine, forget how to pronounce her name, was launched to stardom by the dazzling musical Heart Tugger from Jacques Demy. She plays an umbrella shop owner's delicate daughter. And I love that it's an umbrella shop. It allows the color to pop off organically in the film. There's so much color in this. And she falls for this guy who works at a garage, and then they are separated because of war. And then the consequences of that separation influence the rest of the plot of the film. And it's so rooted in reality for a musical. You wouldn't... I didn't think that I would be enamored by the dialogue of this. It's almost a point. It's almost a memory. It's something pulled, almost like a myth, or a legend in a way. But it's colorful, and it's just such a pleasant. Sometimes when I watch a Criterion film, what I really want to do when I'm going to my shelf, I really want to be able to put something on and know I am watching a truly beautiful color palette that I could only get from a movie like this off of my Criterion shelf. And that's what this does, and that's what I wanted it to do. But I was really drawn so into the characters and the story, and I was surprised. I was kind of surprised, especially in those last few minutes, that really sold it for me. And the great singing, it's just awesome. Different than an MGM musical, which is typically what I'm drawn toward. If you know anything about MGM musicals, you can see how that would be very different here. But I love a different take on a musical. I put Sister Act as my number, in my top 10 musicals of all time, which I found a DVD of recently. But my number one, and this is going to be a lot of y'all's number one. It's not real complicated, is it? Stanley Kubrick enters the collection. And a lot of you are probably going to join me in saying that Eyes Wide Shut is the release of the year from Criterion. It sure seems like it if you try to find a copy of it anywhere. I got lucky and got this from Barnes & Noble before it sold out. No one had bought them yet. So that was nice. His last film, and what a good one it is. A Christmas Time Odyssey. It says, into a surreal sexual underworld whose hidden power structures are laid frighteningly bare, the film marks the fulfillment of the director's decades-long desire to adapt a certain novel and the culmination of his obsessive interest in the relationship between institutional authority and the individual. And this is a bitter film. I just watched Weekend, the Godard film Weekend, similar to me in a way. I mean, not like the same level of like teeth sinking into your face, biting satire that film is. Wow, that film's dark. But there's quite a bit of it in there, I think, in light of recent times, especially some of what happens with the cult that Tom Cruise finds himself sort of interacting with, whatever you want to call it, cult organization of rich people without having to worry about the law, that kind of, however you want to say it. It's definitely an eye-opening movie, and his chemistry at that time with Nicole Kidman and her confessions and the things she says to him. I mean, there are like 3 different Oscar-worthy performances in there, just in the film, and it looks so pretty in this. The lights, the Christmas lights. I love Christmas stuff. I've got it everywhere around my house. We have a moose with a bow on it because we just got a moose thrifting. I talked about that in a different video. So I was attracted to that part of the film. And the performances, the timing of everything about it's just great. And I love that it was probably a little bit misunderstood because people, at the time were probably looking for a literal copy-paste of New York City, a literal copy-paste of what the characters might say with like less theatrical dialogue or something. That's not what happened here. Stanley Kubrick stylized this a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to watching it again. I'm kind of thinking about watching it again this year. So to review, number 5, Winchester 73, the great Anthony Mann, James Stewart collaboration. The Wim Lucarius, Abbas Kiarostami's intricate, introspective, amazing, beautiful film about don't rush death, the big heat, a scathing, terrifying, great film noir with a terrific lead performance from Glenn Ford. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, one of the most beautiful films of the year that was released, and really kind of an emotional one. Gets to your heart there. Nice musical. And Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, a film that has aged beautifully and is one of his very best from a director who is much better than most directors could ever hope to be. Tell me, what were your favorites of the year? Give me your 5. Tell me your 5. Your top 5 favorites of the year. Click the like button for me if you would, and subscribe to Kobe. I'm not Kobe, I'm Cody in a Cinema.